Hello everyone, my name is Selena Mosley and on behalf of the organisers Oliver Kinross, I would like to welcome you all to London Build Online. I'd like to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors, but with very special mention of Cloudalise, our sponsor of today's session. So today's session will kickstart with a short introduction by our sponsor, followed by a panel discussion on Cloud for AEC, Come Back Stronger and Modernise Faster, moderated by Eric Bodek and joined by our fantastic lineup of panelists. There'll be plenty of time for Q&A throughout the session, so do take the opportunity to submit your questions in the questions box on your screen. I hope you all enjoy the next 90 minutes, and I would like to hand it over to you now, Eric.
Thank you very much, and I will start the presentation now. Let me select my screen here. I think it's this one. I hope you can all see my screen.
Yes, I can. You just have to put it in slide share mode. Possible?
Slide share.
Yeah, we can just see your desktop at the moment.
Okay, so it's just the wrong screen then, probably that you're seeing. It's this one, right? Okay.
Perfect.
So welcome to the webinar of Cloudalise with London Build Online 2021. Today we're going to talk about the cloud in the AEC market, which is come back stronger and modernize faster. Today, the speakers that we are having today, so my name is Eric, I'm the account executive for Cloudalise. I also have here is Chris van Kerpel, who is the business development manager for Beams. We have also Andis Dobris from Fletcher Priest Architecture, which is the BIM lead. We have from ICON, we have David Phillips, Director of Digital Strategy and Innovation, and Alex Tagliamonte from Multiflex, who will be joining us today in the Q&A session. Before we get started, I want to talk about the building and design function is evolving. So the design of buildings has been evolving very rapidly over the last decade, but also, but not only in the way that we are looking at it, but also the functionality of the spaces. And of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated this way even more for public spaces and private spaces who are suddenly not being utilized to its full potential. And although we can't predict the future and we can't say what the future will look like, we can examine some current trends that that will be having a lasting impact on these trends. So the first one I want to talk about is, of course, the repurposing of urban office spaces. With the pandemic and remote working that is being mandatory, office spaces around the world have been laying empty. And developers and urban planners are looking for ways to repurpose these areas for purposes as residential or cultural purposes. One example for this, of course, is the Boekentoren in Antwerp. It used to be the headquarters for KBC for quite a while, so it was a bank, and they are now going to redo the restructuring of this office space for cultural purposes. It's going to become a cultural center. There are a lot of other examples that we can give. For example, Doc Noord, who used to be in a very big industrial area, has now been repurposed and completely remodernized to for cultural, but also for shops, leisurement, and etc. So it has been repurposed. The second trend that we want to talk about is the new form of public spaces. One example of this is the Brussels regional government has already planning for the future with more pedestrian areas. And these plans has even been accelerated due to COVID. The Ansbachlaan in the center of Brussels has already been redeveloped. And however, the new plans extend these new urban spaces further into the city center to meet the requirements, of course, for safe living and working urban spaces. The last trend we want to talk about, of course, is the flexibility due to technology or technological advances in the last decade. The possibilities have become endless. And this has given, of course, the AEC market or companies the chance to start experimenting with different design methods and materials. One example of this is the Belgian company who has succeeded for the first time in 3D printing a two-story house. But also we have the rise of tiny houses, of houses that are being built with refurbished shipping containers, and etc. But not only the way that we are working has changed, of course. Not only the way we look at public spaces or repurposing urban office spaces has changed a lot. Also, the way that we are working has changed a lot, especially due to COVID. And the first thing that we want to talk about is, of course, due to the global lockdown and COVID, companies have extensively shifted the way that they work from all in an office working together at the open spaces to suddenly all working from home. And apparently telecommuting integration turns out, of course, to be deeper than we all expected. Because of this, it became very clear that fast remote collaboration became a priority when the epidemic started. Thus, many companies, of course, has also had to rethink the way that they communicate the frameworks and increase the adoption of telecommuting tools, of course, has entailed associated with remote work trends. Due to these new ways of working, companies are looking for more and more outside of their normal hiring areas as well, especially if in more traditional areas like architecture, construction, we see that now architect companies are sometimes hiring all over Europe for the pool of talent. The second way is software also have become increasingly GPU demanding, and the 3D rendering market is constantly changing and improving itself. Everyone from massive companies like IKEA or Samsung to small startups have begun to see the numerous rewards that 3D rendering can bring to their business. But to keep with the technology ever-changing updates, they need, of course, the help of experts. But also the rendering has become increasingly more general. And for example, 3D renderings for showcasing different views of an interior. So you can show how your apartment will look like, how your building will look like from different angles. Also, the increasing reliance on 3D renderings for strong sales conversions. And because people can now see how their building will look like, how the apartment will look like, it became a tool for the sales department to sell, and etc. But there are also, of course, a lot more other functions in this. Lastly, the virtual reality workloads. Virtual reality can be seen, of course, as the next step and is a real-time photorealistic walkthrough generated from a virtual model. And this virtual model demonstrates how a building will look like and how it is built. And of course, because you only need a VR goggle, which is not very expensive, the barrier to entry is very low. And of course, it is very flexible. You can send over a file to the other side of the world that a client can open, and of course, he can directly walk into a building and look how his building will look like. But Cloudlize plans for the future. And we do this through some positive steps that you can take. First of all is the virtual and design construction. A Cloudlize platform enables the virtual design construction. It connects your team with the correct data and essential workflows of all the cloud to maximize, of course, your efficiency and deliver on time and on budget. The digital twins. Digital twin becomes more important in 2020, of course, due to, or especially in architectural, engineering, and construction professionals, and brings new life, of course, to your drawing or a blueprint. And then we have the building information modeling. It's the Cloudlize GPU-powered platform enables you to use BIM on the cloud. It's a one-in-all solution to optimize your existing BIM workflows, applications, and tool sets for a super secure cloud. And then the golden thread concept. We all know in construction, the golden thread of information is used as a shorthand for an accurate and up-to-date recording of building data. Although not standard practice yet, it does help, and it will gives you a detailed information on how a building was designed, built, and should be maintained. It is, of course, a living document and is held digitally. To discuss some of these topics, of course, we have a panel discussion today. And for this, I will present the team that I want to thank, first of all, Beams, the Fletcher Priest Architects, ICOM, and Multiflex for joining us today. Okay. Now I will, first of all, let's go through the first introduction round, I think is in order. So I will give the word to David Phillip.
Hi, Eric. I'm David Phillip, and I hope everyone is well. I'm actually based in, it's actually nice that you think, one of these things about the events is virtual, the fact we're probably all around the world. I'm based up in Scotland. My day job is I'm a director for AEC, and I look at digital strategy and innovation. Increasingly, we're helping our clients around the globe, not just in terms of creating new assets, both in terms of buildings, but also including our linear infrastructure, roads, networks, and rails, but also how we're also thinking about existing estate, how we actually do better repairs, maintain and improve, and actually use digital for better asset management and operation as well. So thank you for letting us join today's panel.
You're very welcome, David. I will give the word to Andis Dobris.
Hello, my name is Anders Dobris. I'm the BIM lead for Fletcher Priest Architects. So I work on development and improvement of company standards, implementation of ISO 19650, and streamlining existing workflows, and looking for new solutions and technology that can enable us to produce better designs and better value for the end user. And thank you for inviting me to participate in this exciting panel discussion.
You're very welcome, Andis. I will give the word now to Alex Tagliamonte.
Hi there. My name is Alex. I'm London-based, working for Multiplex, Tier 1 contractor, specialized in prime, high-rise, residential and commercial buildings. Currently delivering a couple of projects on site in Vauxhall for hotel and resi. Been working together with Tom Lauder at Digital in delivering the projects using modern methods of technology and BIM workflows for the site.
Okay, thank you, Alex. And last but not least, Chris van Kerpel from Beams.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Chris, and I'm working for Beams. I'm owner of the company as well. We specialized in BIM, especially in BIM trainings. We have our own BIM studio where we do 3D modeling. We do app development, especially for BIM products. We provide resources and do BIM support, like and also CAD and BIM consultancy. And thank you very much for inviting us in this webinar. Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome, Chris. I would say let's start with the question. Of course, is how and what can we learn from 2020? And I will start with David.
Hi, Eric. Yeah, it's hard to believe how much our world's changed in such a short time, but I think at the same time, I think we've all used this time to really reflect. And I think one of the big things I know within AECOM is we think about what are the outcomes we're trying to achieve as a business. And I think when we think about our technologies, we're moving away from output such as rather than just achieving a drawing or a model, it's actually think more and more about what the outcomes they'll achieve for our clients and indeed for wider societal as well. So a big part of us is starting to think more and more about outcome-focused approaches within there. And I think what we realised, especially, we think even going into COVID as an organisation, we were working globally and collaborative as well. We were using the cloud within there. And actually, I think when you come together and you see a crisis, it's demonstrated that actually we can innovate, we can make real changes, and we can act quickly in a very short time. And the cloud has certainly helped us to collaborate better. I think one of the big things that we've seen as well is not just about COVID, but also the need that as we do think about building back, we need to build back much more altruistically. I think we're all probably in this call galvanized by the need to think about, how data and digital is going to help us in terms of building back much more sustainably and low carbon. And I think, Eric, one of the things you said in your own intro is, we can't see the future, but actually at AECOM, one of the things that we think we can do is start to test the future. We're starting to much more move, if you work the world of digital twinning and much more probabilistic models to actually test future outcomes and performance for different infrastructure. Trying to create right at the beginning very much different optioneers and using analytics and AI tools and machine learning, start to demonstrate what future scenarios could like, as well within there. We also talk a lot about the world of AEC, but for us, it's only part of the equation. We've got to think much more as a built environment. We need to think much more about how we operate and maintain and do that right from the beginning. You mentioned golden thread. That doesn't happen by accident. It involves making sure we're engaging right with the end owners and stakeholders within there as well. And I think probably just to cut off, I think at the same time, we need to think about being, if you like, think about the fatigue. I mean, it's been, for many people, the technologies are great, but let's be honest, we're probably all in some sort of virtual call, if you like, of, from 8 in the morning through to 8 at night. And I think with the cloud, and that is hugely important, collaboration is something that needs to be mindful. I think we get this thing called the infinity pool of time that, we just feel we've got to, fill our days from 8 to 8. But actually, when we think about collaboration, one of the things that AECOM we're trying to do is to make sure when we use our cloud, use our time, it's not just for the sake of it. It's about purposeful collaboration and how we use our tools to get, better outcomes and better performance in terms of all we do, but doing it mindfully to make sure that, at the time it's helping our people, it's not creating another layer of stress on there. But we're hugely hopeful for the future, and we think we've learned many, many lessons that we'll just embed, especially in terms of data-driven decision-making for start sustainability as to how we build back.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Anybody else want to elaborate on this or on this?
Yeah, I could add maybe a couple of points. A lot of good points made by David. Really great. A lot to take in, but I can maybe mention some more simple things like deploying some new solutions like MS Teams, for example. Very, very simple. Like before that, it might require a planning time of a month or two to just start doing that. But now, as with these circumstances, you can do it much quicker, much rapidly. So meaning that this pandemic has speeded up the digitalization considerably. So also that ties back into having BIM, that this data-driven decision making and production of a lot of data is thriving during these times, although it might sound wrong when I say that, but it actually is. So now we just don't have choice, and we have this cloud approach, which one of the biggest benefits of that is, being able to access the data, the information from almost anywhere in the world. So now it's already a given. It's like a second nature. Or maybe at the beginning we were lagging a bit, but now everybody's used to that. Everything's remote. Everything's already, a cloud, internal, external, however you call it. It's already, kind of the industry is, suiting itself to kind of embed in that philosophy. So another thing is emergence of hybrid working. This work from home, work from office. So now it's going to be a big challenge, and it's not really clear what is that going to mean to the businesses, how we rent our spaces, because we completely acknowledge that not everybody can work remotely. Some people can want to work only from the office. Some people want to work only from home, but most likely they're gonna have this hybrid working. So we have to think about how we address this requirement, how we organize our office spaces in the future. So, and the last thing, but not the least, is about the balancing your meeting times between your time that you actually work, because this one benefit where change in how you can approach people, even leaders. So the leadership visibility has greatly improved, but it comes with a cost. That you have to think how many meetings you can have to actually be productive in the same time. And also, although it's really easy to have these ad hoc meetings or organized meetings much quicker, there is this limit of, well, in my experience, individual experience, when it goes after 4 or 5 people, organizing meetings isn't as easy. But 1, 2, 3 people, 4 people, it has definitely improved. So yeah.
Okay, thank you on this. Alex or Chris?
Yeah, sure. I think so when COVID happened in the first place, we didn't have much chance to decide what to do in terms of going to the office or working from home. So the digital office is the new reality now, and we have to adapt faster, in the fastest way as possible, to work digitally and remotely. And I think the positives about that, from my experience, is that the productivity is actually increased drastically. And this is because now, instead of waiting weeks to arrange in-person meetings, we can just dial in, utilizing these video conference tools. So the productivity has strongly increased, and that relates also with the decision making. So decision making, it's also improved massively using these digital technologies. So that's the digital office. And then the other thing that we've learned quite a lot is to actually bring the site experience of the site into digital platforms, and to share what's happening on sites with people working from home. And I think that's a massive benefit that digital technology has brought during these tough periods. There are different software we use on site to capture site progress and to bring that reality to our laptops, in the digital office, pretty much. And that also can integrate quite easily with program or with design management, or I don't know, commercial management. So it's all linked together using these new methods of working, pretty much. And I think the biggest lesson learned is that from 2020 is that we learn to adapt to this new reality, and we learn to be resilient to change. So I think that's a big point for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Chris?
Well, I do think that there are a lot of benefits in working remotely, but there are also some minor things. I see that when usually I'm a sales guy, so I'm driving around to a lot of customers, and now these days I'm not driving around anymore. So I'm only doing meetings via Teams and Zoom and everything, which is quite okay because you don't lose that much time. But you don't have the coffee chat period anymore. That you have that time before a meeting that you chit chat with your customers and all those things. That makes a lot of difference. On the other hand, when I see when it comes to working in BIM, let's say that it's that you can all work together in the same model remotely, that you can do all those things. These are the benefits, of course, but I'm not sure that we're gonna go back to going to the office. Everybody is not going to the office again. I think maybe part of the time. But I do hope that we can go back to the office because I think it's also a very social thing and you can work closer together, and that's at least my opinion about it. So.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Does anybody agree with what Chris says? Are there also negative sides to this change in what we've seen in 2020 on this?
Maybe a bit of a struggle with the training and employee engagement, because there's a new generation of new starters that start from home. So that wasn't there before. Maybe in software development that's absolutely fine, but in a design discipline it's something completely new, and yeah, we're constantly coming up with new ways how to communicate better and create this synergy of creativity.
To be quite honest, it's strange that some people that you hire, you haven't seen them. You just it's strange. I mean, you send contracts over via email, you have meetings and interviews via Zoom or Teams, and they sign the contract, they send it back, and they hired. And that's a bit of a change since before 2020. Before that's it's a big change.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that the big part for me is still about that word, I think, of mindfulness, isn't it? That we can get guilty of scheduling meetings straight after each other and think, gosh, if we're in an office environment, we give people 10 minutes of comfort break, 10 minutes of being resetting headspace within there. So I think we're maximising the use of technology, but at the same time we'd have to be hugely mindful. And I think, especially in terms of mental health, I think it's a lot easier when you're face to face, Chris, as you said, round about the water cooler, a cup of coffee, folks shared things. And I think it's just that bit of more tricky now. And I think you said it, and it's probably about having to, if you like, level up in terms of skills and knowledge, not in the technologies, but actually, how do you emotionally engage when we use our technologies as well, which I think, is equally as important. It's that mindfulness and purposefulness in terms of how we use our technology is equally as important as to what does F5 do.
Okay. Is Alex, you want to share something else or add something?
Obviously, as Chris has said, I mean, you lose the social aspect of engaging with your team. That's the biggest loss for me, obviously, and yeah, not much to add on that. I think everyone is in the same situation, so it's quite standard for everyone. So yeah.
Okay. Something that I do want to add as well to to everybody who's watching, of course, is you can add some questions as well to the panel. This way we can maybe ask them directly, of course, to our panel people. Okay. Now, as we were talking about what has changed, of course, in 2020, there are also some development trends in the AEC market that has been very up and coming. So, what are the trends that you are all seeing that are emerging from all of this, and what are the trends to look out for? Who wants to start with that question?
I guess that's okay.
On this, okay.
Yeah. So I think a big thing is about redefining the public space, because and you mentioned that at the beginning about this making the city centers greener and using more of the, you know, maybe taking a chunk of the infrastructure. So basically expanding that outdoor space of restaurants, for example. Okay, so there will be something in there, because with current social distancing rules, it's quite problematic to accommodate the amounts of people we have in the current public space. Another thing is these donuts that were, you know, previously really busy city centers are now half empty, but the local public space is becoming really live and thriving with, you know, meetings taking place there. Also, people going out exercising is considerably increased. So that's a really interesting aspect, I think, that will change the way our cities work, and also how the retailers will you know, consider their design and, you know, offer unique experiences to kind of lure the customers back into those centers. Also, now with this you know, amounts of data we can collect from the public space, allows us to analyze that public space on a different level, where, for example, you can take Instagram posts that are, you know, tied to one geographic location, and we can analyze the experiences people have there, or the experiences they're going after when they go to that place. That gives us more insight how we can design those places and accommodate those needs. So yeah, that's something I wanted to point out. Anyone else?
Yeah, I certainly agree. Yeah, I think there's a move in terms of how we use our technologies now, thinking about people's experience, how we can use that. But I remember even we wearable devices, we're seeing much more about digital twinnings of not just the physical asset, but also of the people who use it as well, to make sure we get a better experience. One of the things we're really noticing as well is, you know, I think there's a confidence in terms of technology. Clients are maturing in their journey through building information modeling, getting into the early foothills of digital twinning. And we're seeing now much more thinking about not digitization at a project level, but moving more in terms of digitization in terms of programs, city and campus type levels within there. And I think that's in terms of the scalability of it, but I think in terms of, you know, the temporal scale, which we think about in terms of time, you think we were probably a couple of years back using digital to help things like better plan preventative maintenance, but we are getting much more, back to what Andy said there, about much more dynamic data, real-time monitoring of how assets are performing. But I completely agree, as Andy said, more importantly than just how the asset's performing, how people are using the space. You know, what's the, you know, the utilization, you know, what's their wayfare. You know, from healthcare, it's not just for us anymore about, you know, designing a building that's well maintained, but actually, is it giving better healthcare provision there? From a technology point of view, I think the big thing we're seeing is a convergence. You've had all these things that have lived in isolation, building information modeling, geospatial, sensor data, even 4 to 5G have all been all these things that have been living in their own clouds and islands. But we're now starting to see much more integration of these different themes. And I think probably one of the biggest challenges we've got is just now in terms of digital built environment is interoperability, you know, and how we can share. So much more thinking about integration. At the same time, some real positive things that we're seeing, you know, as well is, you know, much more move to value-based procurement and data for value-based decisions. Clients moving to much more advanced and modern methods of construction and how data can flow not just through from design, but to construct as well within there. But also positively for those that have, I think, you know, started to invest in cloud and cloud hosting, much more, I call it, you know, the low coding. It's more app-based. It's not having to buy big bits of desktop hardware, but very small apps that are going to enable something specific as well. And Eric, I could be quite controversial about one of the things we're seeing as well is from an operational point of view. We're seeing now edge technologies creeping in. We hear the term the edge nibbling away at the cloud. We're seeing much more processing on the edge as well now. So a lot of our clients, you know, that actually mixture of cloud, but also with much more computational power, it's sensors right on the edge, you know, where, you know, the cyber physical, you know, comes together as well. So I think huge shift, I think, in terms of And I think it'd be unfair to say that, you know, COVID has not been a real catalyst for it, but we're seeing some interesting moves as clients become more sophisticated and I think got trust in their technology stacks.
Okay. Thank you very much, David.
Yeah, and then yeah, so just linking in with what David has said. I mean, to be honest, I've got a very similar view on what he said, and I think data now it's really driving the process of informing the organization on the best way forward and taking corporate decisions. So that data process, you know, it can actually pull data from different aspects of an organization or from SAC progress or anything, and help people to take informed decisions. As an example, using dashboards which pull data, which is updated on, you know, every minute or so. So that sort of reporting, it's really changing the way we approach construction and helps us to take informed decisions and, you know, help us to understand the best way forward again. So the other one is cloud. I think cloud it's a massive sector at the moment for digital construction. We now see all the construction software that are going cloud, from a very simple clash detection software or visualization software to a more advanced site linked software. Everything it's on cloud and accessible to everyone from everywhere. And then going into the construction side of things, then this off-site construction and this new modern method of construction based in the factory and not on site, I think for me is the way forward. It's not just the construction and manufacturing parts that I'm interested. It's also that links with the digital twin or the model, you know, that relation that can really speed up the construction and make construction more accurate and basically try and resolve all of the problems before getting to site at the same phase, pretty much. So that's the integration for me is key for the future of this industry.
Okay. Do you think, Chris, that with with digitalization speeding up, this will have an improved this will improve the BIM processes and everything, or is this how do you look at this?
Absolutely, that's for sure. There's these days, like in the earlier years, let's say software packages were a little bit smaller and compressed, but these days all the software packages are huge, and the same as all the BIM software packages, huh? And so we're gonna have to use more, need more data. We're gonna go actually to the more and more to the cloud, and that's very important that we use that and that we can in the future use it more and more. Absolutely.
Okay. Is any questions? I'm not sure. I don't see any questions from the public yet, so we will go over to the third question. So the implementation of BIM, virtual design construction on the cloud, is this how did we do this process, David, or how do you view this?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a couple of different components there, so it's worth bringing this up. I think the good thing about BIM, and it's been mentioned already, I don't know if it was Sandis that mentioned it or Alex, but increasingly we're really lucky now with an international set of standards, the ISO 19650 suite, which has given us a common process in terms of how we can manage information how we can do it, how we can do it, how we can do it extremely as well within there, especially within cloud-based environments. And increasingly within AECOM, we're now starting to see that as becoming, if you like, the global way of doing it, and increasingly we are doing it on the cloud. Now, what does that mean for an organisation such as AECOM? It means we can start to use, especially from design, we can start to use follow the cloud model. So, design can start off, in a digital environment in terms of an information model, and say our office in say ANZ across New Zealand, maybe moves across to Melbourne. It can move across into, say, our Madrid office, continental Europe, move across the UK, and a couple of times in the US. So it means we can be working now concurrently in a 24/7 cycle in terms of, following the cloud. The fact that we've got a much more integrated cloud-based ways of, of digitally designing, and that's very similar with all our back-end processes. We've invested heavily in terms of, over the years in terms of, because we do have a big global workforce, is how we can actually, change the business model through the cloud base within there. But at the same time, we've got to think, and I think it's probably more, we see our businesses in the US, Singapore, and Hong Kong using virtual design construct as a construct. So for me, BIM is about, better information modeling and management. But we then think about, virtual design construct, as a process that's going to help us, and that's helping us get better intense collaboration. And it's helping us in terms of process optimization through, maybe in terms of time simulations as well within there. But the cloud is helping us think more and more think about real rehearsals. You mentioned yourself, Eric, in terms of, rendering. We've got a big VR, AR teams within there that, if you like, immersive environments are letting us test in the cloud constructability, working with supply chains, rehearsing it maybe 4 or 5 times is the best way to construct. But also increasingly maintainability within the cloud. What is the best way? We call the term soft landings very much in the UK. How we involve the end users, the operators right at the beginning. So not just looking at how the best way to rehearse building it, but also the best way to maintain it through the whole of an asset lifecycle. And I think increasingly we're seeing, again, as we've moved more towards digital twins, is more performance related. Again, in terms of how we can use, as BIM expands into the much more and grows up and moves into that world of giving us much more insight, we're starting to use it, for predictive insights as to how a design is going to, perform as well. So we're using very much the cloud, artificial intelligence, or beginnings of AI, but machine learning now to start to look at different, future scenarios as to how a design will perform as well within there. So we're seeing a huge synergy between now and BIM VDC, and we're maximising the use of the cloud. And I think, I don't know if it was Alec or Andres that said, but you completely agree, we're moving very much towards that virtualized environment now. Your design office is a virtual environment that's based upon the cloud, but also importantly, the cloud should not be just, I think, seen as somewhere you can put things on to store it, but increasingly for us, it's how we can automate workflows and how we can maximize productivity to take a lot of the admin. And a big part of it as well is assurance. We're trying to build much more of rule-based checking into our workflows as well. So the assurance piece becoming a big part of that as well. But again, it needs to be something that's secure and doesn't become a dumping ground. And that means we're trying to upskill the next generation of information managers. And I think, whilst it's become more and more role, that information manager should be something we all do. We all manage information, we probably generate it, we manage it. So we need to start to think about our responsibilities. We call it the digital citizen within AECOM, and what our responsibilities are in terms of working within a cloud-based environment.
Okay, thank you. Chris, as a BIM manager, you want to elaborate on this?
Well, I'm not really a BIM manager, but during the years I learned a lot about BIM. So what I would say is that I do see BIM more as a service, and a lot of companies are more or less thinking that BIM, as I see it in Belgium, as that BIM is a software, which I always say that you have to try to see BIM as a service and making sure that you take care of the soft skills within companies. You have to make sure that everybody is with their nose in the same direction. Then you can start implementing the methodology, and then you can build up and start start working together. It's really something that you have to do together, and not with just a software package that you implement. Not at all. That's at least my opinion about it, and that's what I try to convince a lot of companies about it. And it for the moment it works. It works. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Andis or Alex, you want to elaborate on this? I also see that there was a question. No, go ahead on this.
Yeah, there is a question about the difference between VDC and building information modeling, and sometimes it confuses myself as well. But VDC is more about the whole process. So it consists of three things: integrated concurrent engineering and integrated product production management, and then BIM. So there are three things. So it's a bit more than BIM. So BIM is a part of VDC. So just a quick answer to that. But yes, so the implementation of BIM and VDC is a very current, I'd say, topic for us at FPA, and especially the implementation of ISO 19650 and UK BIM framework is doing a great job with providing a lot of guidance documents, and they're quite recent. I think in February they released another set of guidances that explain the actual standard 1 and 2. Which can help, which should be read by everyone to understand how it actually works. There are a lot of examples and diagrams there to find. So we kind of aligning ourselves with that to make ourselves agile and prepared for any kinds of requirements, because this international standard, and within the name it says it. That it's international, meaning that different countries should be able to adopt it to their own information management processes. So it's all about the key here is making yourself flexible and prepared to accommodate whatever requirements. However, the principle should stay the same, and certain documentation should be in place and clarification of those requirements from the beginning and coming from the client, not us creating those requirements, but the client actually understanding which exactly are those things that he needs to make decisions flowing through the project life cycle to the phases. So that is a big challenge. Also, some of the documentation that is mentioned or described in those standards, and how that actually is the same documentation named differently in our business at the moment. So how are we bridging that gap? Like, so which is which, and how are we negotiate that? Maybe sometimes task information delivery plan is information delivery schedule, things like that. So still working out how to be best prepared for a really information hungry BIM project. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was going to say, indeed, there is a question from the audience. I'll quickly. Does anybody want to elaborate on this as well, or?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just my thoughts on that. So I think implementing BIM and VDC in the cloud. If I think out loud, it should start with the user in mind. So the trend is currently that these cloud-based platforms for BIM and virtual design construction are making some of their products bespoke to organizations. So that products can actually be utilized in the best way possible by different organizations. So that's the key trend at the moment. And thinking about users using cloud-based digital tools and digital software, as David has said already, the role of information manager is a key role in terms of standardizing the approach and the way we use these cloud-based platforms. We should be learning from these information managers and try at some point to overcome the information manager role and making our own sort of being information managers, ourselves pretty much. So be working within these cloud platforms as in the tidiest way as possible, really. Yeah, I think this cloud-based software now the new reality, and they are taking over all the desktop-based platforms. So there's no doubt about that. Yeah, that's it really.
Okay, thank you, Alex. There was a question that came in from the public here. It's a very interesting topic indeed. One of the greatest challenges that we have in this part of the world, so Nigeria, is the internet connectivity. What is the experience in other parts of the world? As we know that AEC models can run into hundreds of megabytes to collaboratively work online. Well, I can partially give the answer to that question. Is I think there are a lot of areas in the world that have the same problem as the internet lines. We see that the internet connectivity, of course, over the last decade has increased a lot from the dial-in from the 90s to until fiber net and glass fiber. So the connectivity has increased a lot. Unfortunately, in some areas of the world, it's still not as good as in let's say the US or in big parts of Europe. But even then, we can see that, for example, if you want to use our solution as Cloudlyze, for example, we see that it's the internet connectivity is not necessarily always the problem. It can also have something to do with with the latency, and so the place where you are in regarding, of course, the data center that you are working on. So I don't know what is your standpoint on this. Who wants to go first?
It's what I'm quite passionate about. I live in semi-rural Scotland, so I do not live in a big city. So you can imagine it's a big thing. One of the first things we do in our business, we call it our healthy start. So if you've got a new project starting up, say it's a BIM project or anything using digital technologies, that mobile technology, especially maybe before you get a permanent line in. So it's one of the things we can say is it should be a real consideration for any new project starting up, is looking at it, testing line speeds, but also looking at security around about it as well. We think it's there. The other thing as well is we think about segregation of our models, trying not to ship a huge data package, but trying to break up the model file size into something that's manageable. So it might be in terms of zoning, but how we break up the model structure. At the beginning, giving real thought to that one. So it is something that we can, exchange maybe there. I think the other thing as well, we often, I think as an industry, we can often over digitize, or we get too much level of graphical detail at a particular stage because, hey, I think that's great. So for us, it's always be proportionate. What is the questions we're trying to answer, and what information will answer it? So there's no point of just, creating, if you like, a nice, wonderful rendering that's massive file size just because we can. And it's about, trying to think about, proportionality level information need within there. And as we move into digital twinning, I mentioned it already, but it's becoming more and more important, is that edge computing. That, we're doing the computation right on the edge with small microprocessors, maybe next to an air handling unit or control mechanism. So we're not having to send lots of data on the cloud. It's all the data that's going to be processed there. So much more, not with our design construct, but once we're into operation, thinking much more about how edge technologies will fit within the cloud. But real thinking about proportionality of model sizes, how we can break it down, and having an appropriate level of information need are all part of what we call our healthy start process.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Anybody else want to elaborate, add? Yeah,
I can just maybe add on those points David said about modeling exact amount that's required for a certain stage in a project, and having those documents in place and understanding that you should not over model to just put that extra load on processing units. So that also ties back to federation strategies, where you have to think about how you split up that chunk of information, because that's what it is. And you have to also think about the designers who are actually using that information and how those interfaces between those different databases work together and produce the outputs we're looking for. So having these detailed responsibility matrices, per category using Uniclass, and having attached detail, level of detail or level of information need, however it's called now, or however it's decided by the client which framework to implement, it should be followed. And also, what is very important when you go from project information model to asset information model, how much detail, geometrical detail in particular, you keep for that asset information model to be usable. Because sometimes you might have a lift model with every bolt in it, but you don't want that to be in that overall big federated model, perhaps. You might want it to be linked into it and accessible, but the thing is, like, having that being mindful of level of detail, because it puts additional load on processing of that information and actually using it, because once it becomes too slow and usable, nobody will want to use it. And we will have to think about that from the beginning, really, and understanding where we stop, including those highly detailed geometrical models in the model that's supposed to be handed over to the operators.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Andy's. Actually, we need the right information at the right time. I know you heard this sentence many times, but that's what it is. We don't want to overcomplicate things. We just need the right level of development or detail, at the correct stage, and yeah, that will help definitely the federation model. But to be honest with you, I don't think that will make a massive difference in terms of resolving the problem of internet connectivity that that person just just raised. I think if you have poor internet, it won't work anyway.
Correct. Okay, then anybody else want to elaborate, or else I go to the next question? The next question is, how do you implement digital twin in your company or companies? How is this? I think, David, you're muted if you're talking.
Eric, I'm happy. It's something we're quite passionate about, and I think.
Okay.
1 second. No, I'm not muted.
No, I think your screen is lagging a little bit.
I think the internet connection.
I think so too. Yeah. That's rural Scotland.
So that was back. That was back to the slow broadband speeds. So, yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, David. And he's gone.
Yeah.
Nope.
Can you hear me now?
I think that's what we say about it. It's latency and lag. So it depends on how far you are from certain areas. So that is something that you also have to consider, of course, when you're having an internet line. The line can be as good, but if you're very far away, it always gives a problem as well. So, okay, David, let's try again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully you can hear me now. So yeah, it's something we're increasing. Okay. I'll try one more time.
No, it's too much lag, I fear. So maybe somebody else want to answer first, and give David some time to make sure that his line is back up.
I can jump in. So I think the digital twin was a word created by NASA in the first time. In the first place, actually. Sorry. So that means a digital representation of a real life object, pretty much, in very simple terms. So I think from my view, and looking at Multiplex, but also the other construction companies, I mean, it's definitely a key topic.
Yeah, that's jitter.
Okay, that was David, huh?
Yeah, that was David. It's it's everything that he said came in, but it was already underway and it just got stuck somewhere. So go ahead, Alex.
So, no, that's fine. So as I said, it's a visual representation of a real life thing, pretty much. And the current trend is that organizations are trying to move in that direction as much as they can. So having a BIM model or a federated model, it's in somehow it's that representation of a building or a place or a master plan. The thing is that it won't have all of the details and the conditions that you will find on site at the moment. So as an example, when you build a concrete shaft, for instance, you have a tolerance zone, yeah. So that tolerance, it's very hard to be brought into a digital model. That's because there are a number of factors that construction or weather or whatever that make that structure having some I would say specific site conditions. So what I'm trying to say is that we are not ready yet to have a 100% correct virtual representation of what's happening on site at the moment. Well, we're definitely moving in that direction, and probably this will be implemented in the next 5 to 10 years, in my view, at least.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Maybe David, I'm not sure if you can.
Yeah, can you still hear me, Eric? Come on back.
Yes, we can clear.
Yeah, jolly good. I'll keep my camera off just now with there. So yeah, so the process that we go through, we're working a lot with our clients in terms of digital twinning. And the first thing we do with clients is to try and understand the value architecture. What is it they want to use, digital twinning for? Looking to understand the primary priorities. Is it about, management of assets? Is it about more safety and resilience? Is it improved project outcomes, and actually how it's going to help them, achieve better performance from their project investment? So number one is we then go through that process. We then look at what we call different levels of sophistication in terms of digital twinning. And I think we'll probably all agree that, digital twins are, they're a realistic digital representation, but the big thing we see is what distinguishes digital twins from other models is that level of connectivity, the relationship in terms of how it mirrors its physical twin within there. So, which is about different sensing layers. It might be IoT, it might be integrated BMS systems, it might be in terms of even wearables that we've talked about as well. So by understanding what we're going to use the twin for, we can then start to look at the level of sophistication and then how we start to connect it within there as well. So we need to make sure that we're connecting, if you like, the model to, for sensing layers. But probably the biggest challenge we've got is not getting the dynamic connection, that real-time monitoring. We're getting pretty good. That's probably dynamic performance. It's probably easy. The operational networks, the integration, yeah, that's the easy part. Probably the big part is once we've captured the data is how we do the analytics. So you imagine real-time data capture, but more and more we're trying to think about, if you like, how we can think about real-time data analytics to provide insights as well within there. So it's a big part of what we use our cloud for is, we're continually capturing data within there. But then once it comes in, we're then starting to use, and this is where we're starting to use, if you like, the early For us, machine learning, starting to use decision-making tools within there. Now, for us, the big part of our business is trying to create that circular data economy. The more we can measure, the more we can, if you like, baseline things from as well, the better we can actually benchmark, is a system performing as it should as well. But I think for us, the big part is, especially from an operational perspective, it's helping us move from deterministic, better planned preventative maintenance to much more status-based maintenance. But the big part from a design point of view is we're now moving to much more, if you like, data-driven design. We're learning from, I think, what's been said earlier, we're learning how existing, say, healthcare facilities are being used, and that's starting to tie into much more generative design workflows as well. So it's helping better operation, but for future projects, it's helping us better data sets that are going to help us in the future as well. But the big part is in terms of helping our clients move towards making, back to what Andy said about, where we're moving next in terms of public spaces, we can now much more move to demand-led investments. It's not just a case, we're thinking, we need investment. Actually, we've got real-time data that says maybe an asset's coming towards its end of life cycle. We can maybe see a demand in terms of public spaces for something to be invested there, but it's helping us, create that circular economy and start to move as well. Plus, we can, it's helping our clients move to much more outcome-based models for servitization, that Uber type model as well. So really exciting times, but there's one word we think is really important: proportionality. Only digitize and get digital twins. That's something that's going to give you value. Again, don't digitize everything. Think about what value you want to create from it. And again, your data collection and your data analytics should be tied to that value proposition. For us, rather than starting with what is it, for us it's where is it going to bring the value. Starting with value architecture for us is the most important part of the digital win. And obviously it's got to be secure. Security and resilience of, especially around the cloud and the sensors, are hugely important. Said the voice from Scotland.
Thank you, David. Okay, anybody else want to elaborate on this?
I can.
On this, yeah, go ahead.
Chris, does that agree with you? So good. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just for us having a digital twin is, for us, that means that we have to prepare and structure our information in a certain way, and we're ready for it. So if we're asked for it, and we have to understand also sometimes we might not design around, but keep in mind that certain areas might contain those sensors, because adding on what Alex and David said, so the digital twin actually consists of three things, which is the physical asset, digital asset, and the connection. So if those three are in place, then it is a digital twin. So we are mindful of that is, those are the components of it, and we might use that knowledge to see where for example, the sensors might be put in, what are they measuring. These sensors might measure acoustics, these sensors might measure noise levels, these sensors might measure temperature and all of that. And also understand that it's very important at those digital twins is how often do you collect that data, because at the end of the day it becomes a huge set of information, and because it gathers the data, stores the data, analyze the data, provides visualization, and then make decisions. So we keep that in mind. Also, is the Center of Digitally Built Britain is providing a lot of guidance and context for it, because the vision for the future is that we have these loads of digital twins that actually talk to each other, and they should be aligned with the Gemini principles, which is the purpose of them. They have to serve a purpose. They have to be trustworthy information sources, and they have to be functional, so a lot of standardized data structures come into place, and it has to be adaptable to the future technology. So it's a lot of things behind those digital twins. So we're only at the let's say well, not at the beginning of the road, but there are a lot of useful information and guidance from Center of Digitally Built Britain. Just for anyone who's interested, look in there. There's a lot lot of information that would explain these concepts. So
okay.
yeah.
Thank you very much. One of the questions I had here is Google Cloud is very much self-service. What is Cloudlyze then, and how does it differentiates from Google and the big boys? Well, I can answer that pretty quickly. So Cloudlyze is a platform that enables you to set up a virtual environment from which you can spin up GPU-driven cloud workstations. So it enables you to run any software from any location with any device. So either it be a tablet or your smartphone, you can open a virtual machine and run your software. That could be Revit, Lumion, or any other softwares. Of course, how we differentiate from the big boys as Azure or the Google Cloud is very easy. First of all, if you want to set up an environment in Google or in Azure or in any other, which are self-service, you need to set everything up for yourself. So you need technical people to set it up. That's it. What we do is a little bit different. So we will analyze what you need and we will tailor a cloud solution towards you. So we set everything up for you, and we do also support and everything else. And this is something, of course, that is you won't get with the big boys as AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud, of course. And you're in our private data centers, so we are very much a lot more secure than the bigger boys. That being said, I think there's a little bit time for the last question, and then we will close it down. It's a kind of an open question. It's more, what is the next big thing for construction and architecture? What do you think will be the next big thing? And we will close with that question. So yeah, who wants to start?
Okay,
maybe.
I think that's actually the cloud. That's the whole idea of BIM is having a centralized source of information and everybody working on it. So that was that BIM level 3, that utopian aspiration of the industry, that everything sits on a cloud, and all the information that's there is actually the information that's being developed, and with the assignment of metadata you can actually understand the purpose of that information and who where does it originate from. So basically working in the cloud already, not storing production kind of snapshots in time into the cloud, but actually working in a cloud collaboratively with all the parties involved, and creating this let's say a baby of a digital twin. No, not baby of a digital twin. Digital twin as a baby, and then maturing and getting into that biggest value of those models and information associated with them, throughout the operation of the asset. So the cloud is actually the topic for this, in my opinion, is the future. I wouldn't say it's 1, 2, or 5 years ago. From now, I think it's going to be a bit longer than that, because there's a lot of other activities and processes, that go along with it.
Okay, who agree? Because I'm very happy that you say this, because it perfectly is aligned with what I've said before. As our platform enables you to work completely from the cloud, from anywhere. So who does agree or disagrees with Andy says?
I would say I wouldn't disagree, but for me the thing is, I think if somebody said to me, where do we sit today? I don't think use the term AEC. I would think we are a built environment. I think we're thinking much more about our natural built environment as well as go forward. But for me, I think we're about to enter the cusp of a construction 4.0. We'll see other industries move to, if you like, to this. You look at aerospace, even retail. Everybody's moving into this industry 4.0, and the cloud's a big enabler of it. But I think it will become part of a much more complex there. I think it'll be value based. I think we'll see much more move to advanced manufacture within a built environment. within there. And I think what we will see is we are on, I think, the cusp of becoming a very rich digital economy within our built environment, i.e. we won't just be based upon steel and bricks. The data produced will have equal value in terms of the outcomes that will produce as well within there. So I think for me, it's that construction 4.0 model. It's the next big thing that will take in, but built upon, if you like, a very much cloud-based layer.
Okay.
I think for me, from a construction perspective at least, I mean, the digital transition is moving, quite strongly, even if not at the same level of the other industries, like for instance, finance or insurance, but still in good track to achieve some great results in the near future. The problem is that we're still constructing buildings in the same way we were doing during the First World War. So that's the problem for me. The next big thing is it doesn't relate only to digital, but it relates on the methods of construction and how we construct building in a more efficient way, and how these new methods of construction then integrate with the digital models pretty much. It would be very nice to see in the near future our trades or consultants to start issuing models for construction instead of for coordination for information. So I think that for me is the next big thing that I would like to see in the construction industry.
Okay, thank you. And Chris, what is your view on the next big thing for construction?
Oh, well, I think we all need to develop a few things like apps where you have the construction things from the supplier going through the when you have the app that you can really let's say make sure that everything is in line, that from when it is built, from the construction till the end, till when it is really building on site, that you can follow the whole track through those apps. Yeah, I think the digital world will get bigger and bigger and bigger, not only for the building industry, for the whole industry. And then we're gonna need more space, and that's cloud. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for the answer to that question, and we'll see who was right in a few years. Okay, first of all, I'm going to close the webinar here, and I want to thank you for the panel discussion. I want to thank you, David, Alex, Andis, and Chris for the conversation. And yeah, all the questions that have been sent and we haven't answered yet will be answered, well, I think later this week, so you will receive an email. For the rest, I want to thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Eric, for moderating all of our panelists and our sponsor of today's session, Cloud Allies, and of course to everyone in the audience that has tuned in today. An on-demand copy of the session will be available on the website and emailed to you within the next week. So our next session of the series is taking place at 1:30 p.m. and this is a panel discussion on the role of digital construction in business resilience and growth. Thanks again for joining us. Stay safe and see you all online again soon.
Have a good day, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot. Bye.